I'm going to take a look at Clemson's kickers, ask the question, how good is Clemson's defense? Discuss a little bit about PJ Hall and his future, and maybe throw in some softball as well, right here on the Morgan Thomas Show.
Looks like it's morphin' time.
This is my house. I built this. This is my house, and this will always be my house. Now let's continue.
Cause I love me some me. I love me some me. To be the man, you gotta beat the man.
We're gonna win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
And now, the Morgan Thomas Show.
Welcome into the Morgan Thomas Show. Make sure you like this video if you like this video, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of my exclusive Clemson content I put out every single week. Thank you for tuning back in. Hey, here we are, 3 days in a row. I can't believe I'm doing this right now, but I got 3 videos in a row, 3 podcasts in a row. Maybe, just maybe, we can keep this going to Thursday and Friday as well. Getting busier as the week goes on, as we get towards the end of the week. So hopefully I can keep the streak going. Help me keep the streak going by giving me some feedback in the comments as well. And again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I have a lot that I want to discuss. I know the past 2 nights have been about the spring game, and I'm going to continue my discussion about the spring game, and I'm going to try to move away from the quarterback situation. You know, that is a very controversial discussion and a very polarizing discussion among the Clemson fan base. Not only Clemson fans about the quarterback situation, but Clemson fans about Dabo Swinney and how he manages his team, Cade Klubnik and his potential, Clemson and their overall development of quarterbacks. I mean, you know, the list goes on. And that's what I love about talking Clemson football. Really, I love about talking sports is that there's always something that happens that you least expect. I mean, did anybody going into the spring game expect that the discussion would be Trent Pierman? I mean, really, come on. That's why it's so exciting for me, because I get to talk about things that, you know, I really never really planned, but we're here and we're going to discuss it, and we have been discussing it. But I did want to pump the brakes on that. I know you want to get back to the Trent Pierman talk for sure, but let's take one episode and let's talk about some other things, right? And then we can go back. First of all, I want to say, hey, I didn't mention this earlier on in the first 2 shows, but if you are a wrestling fan like myself, man, way off subject here, but wow, I just watched Raw with Cody Rhodes and The Rock in the ring. Man, amazing. I watched WrestleMania night 1, night 2. Amazing. It was a great show. If you haven't already, go get Peacock. Go get this is I'm not even sponsored by them. Go get Peacock. Check it out. Best WrestleMania I have seen maybe in my lifetime. Maybe in my lifetime. Really, seriously. So anyways, we'll move on from Cody Rhodes finishing his story and The Rock giving him some sort of, you know, unknown object, handing it off to him at the beginning of Raw on Monday night. And let's move into Clemson football. And I wanted to start off with looking at the kicking situation. You know, Clemson right now has Robert Gunn III, and they also have Nolan Hoosier as well. And those 2 guys were some that were, you know, under the microscope for the spring game as well. Maybe not so much as the offense or the quarterbacks go, but throughout the spring, Clemson brought in true freshman Nolan Hoosier, who's a legacy guy. And then they have Robert Gunn III, who is but also a very highly recruited guy as well. He is not a freshman. We saw him come out as a freshman trying to replace BT Potter, and really didn't work out. I mean, he did really good in his kickoffs, but he didn't do so good in his field goals, and his field goal percentage, you know, was less than to be desired, right? Enters in Nolan Hoosier, who is a new recruit here, a freshman coming on. And, you know, there's a lot of nerves there, and the kicking game is very mental. But as they took the stage for the spring game, you could see kind of honestly what I expected to see. And that's what I wanted to get your thoughts in the comments as well. Did you expect to see what you saw from Robert Gunn III and Nolan Hoosier? First of all, let's take a look at Robert Gunn III. Now, he is considered to be really, the incumbent for at least the kickoff position. Now, Dabo Swinney seems to kind of bounce back and forth between he's the incumbent for the kicker overall, even field goals, considering his experience, but considering his track record, in my opinion, I think that we all expected Nolan Hoosier to come in and compete right away, and he definitely has done that. Now, again, in the spring game, Robert Gunn III faced some challenges. He went 1 for 3 with misses from 37 yards and also a miss from 55 yards. Now, the miss from 55 yards, I don't know how you feel about that. Again, let me know in the comments there. 55 yards, I'm willing to give you some leniency there. So can we give him 1 for 2 at least? Because 55 yards is pretty difficult for most kickers to make. And it really wasn't that bad of a kick. It had the distance on it. It was maybe 2 or 3 feet to the right, but just barely. I mean, really, really, from a kicking standpoint, I really don't want to knock him on that 55-yard miss. So if you will allow me the opportunity here, I would like to let's just put that 55-yarder aside. Now, I can already tell some of you guys are saying, no, Morgan, they all count. This is not Little League. We don't scratch off misses. This is why that Clemson needs another kicker. I understand. I understand. Robert Gunn III is obviously somebody we've seen in the kickoff situation do extremely well. And we saw 1 for 3 from field goals, even though, again, we could debate on the last one, but 1 for 3, not really what you're looking for in a spring game. You'd like to see some more success there. Clemson definitely needs to have a kicker who can be consistent, maybe even from further distance, because here's the thing. Clemson's offense, as we see, didn't really have the strongest offensive line, didn't really have the strongest running game, didn't really have the strongest quarterback game either in the spring game. Now, I know it's still just the spring game, but you need to get points any way possible. And being able to get points by going half the way down the field and still come away with points is a big deal. Being able to just barely get into opposing yardage and make it, even though you can't, if you don't have success in the red zone, which we know last year Clemson struggled, it seemed, in the red zone. To get those touchdowns, I think that it's important for Clemson to go into 2024 with a kicker that they have confidence in. Now on the flip side of Robert Gunn III, you have Nolan Hoosier, who showcased his composure and his accuracy, which was really cool for, a mid-year enrollee, a true freshman here. He comes in and he goes 2 for 2. He had a kick from 29 yards and from 48 yards. I mean, if you're going to scratch the 55-yarder for Robert Gunn III, then how are we going to keep the 48-yarder from Nolan Hoosier? I think that you can't scratch it in that case. Now I'm just, backtracking on my own thought here. I think that when you look at it, obviously he had a distance one and he had kind of a mid-range one there for 2 for 2. So Dabo Swinney, after practice, he noted that there was competition and it remains close. He mentioned, too, that Robert Gunn seemed to have the slight edge. As you all know, Dabo and his coach speak, he's going to, for one, be loyal to both players. For two, I think he's always going to lean towards experience and towards the veteran guy. So it doesn't surprise me that he says Robert Gunn has a slight edge or a slight margin over Nolan Hoosier because, it's still young in the off season. They still have to go through fall camp as well. But so you don't want to go too quickly on who you're going to elect to be your field goal kicker because you don't want to kill Robert Gunn's momentum of what he has and his confidence of what he's building. The importance, though, for Clemson and for Dabo, and as he mentioned, is the consistency. And Gunn has to translate consistency on the field. We constantly hear things about how great he is at practice. Now, I know it's driving a lot of you crazy out there because we hear that about a lot of players, especially in the spring, with how great they are and how successful they are in situations in practice. Practice is one thing. They need to be able to transition those practices into game situations on Saturday in the biggest stressful environment possible, loud, Death Valley. Now, you get a little bit of glimpse of that in the spring game because there are, half full stadium there in Clemson. And the fact that the guys were out there and showing what they did was a big step for them. And it's something that kind of, as I've mentioned with the quarterback situation and with other players, it's not a team game for me when it comes to the spring game. For me, it is individual results. Now, Dabo is telling us to be continued. It is not yet determined who that ultimate field goal kicker will be. But to me, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he came out at the end of fall and said, Nolan Hoosier is going to be our field goal kicker, and Robert Gunn III is going to be the kickoff guy, the main guy there. So you can share that there. A lot of people have mixed opinions on if that's important or not, and having two scholarship kickers. We could debate all that for sure. I don't think it hurts the team to have two scholarship kickers or two scholarship punters. I don't think it hurts at all. I mean, there are 85 players, and really, there are some that are going to get you uh, uh, I don't know if you could use a WAR in football. I don't know if they have that stat in football, but like wins above replacement for baseball, there's definitely more impactful positions for wins above replacement versus the kicker. Now, kicker is very important for sure, but I don't think it's that big a deal to take from your 85 overall and have two kickers, two punters, whatever. I think a lot of people just get way too bent out of shape over those last 10 spots of the 85. I mean, at the end of the day, you need your 22 to be really good. You need your 44 to be really good. After that, those other third string, fourth strings are going to be your developmental type things. So the kicker position, I know, can often get overlooked as we go through spring practice, as we go through football discussion. And, I obviously can be one of the big culprits of it, of constantly looking at the quarterback situation because of my passing charts. But you cannot overlook the critical role and the outcome in games that it has, that is a consistent kicker. And the Clemson coaching staff, undoubtedly, that's got to be one of their biggest keys for this offseason, is finding the best suited player to be able to go out there and kick field goals consistently. And then also on the flip side, get the ball into the end zone on kickoffs. You don't want to allow returnable balls at a high level of college football. We've already seen that. That is something that has to be automatic. And again, these kicks where you get close to the red zone and you don't necessarily get there, or maybe you don't convert in your red zone scenario into the end zone as a touchdown, then you need to be close to automatic converting for field goals as well. How many games out there could Clemson win, or has Clemson won in the past on field goals alone? It's extremely important, I think, for any team to take it very, very serious. So again, I wanted to start out the show about field goals. It's kind of weird to talk about the field goal kickers, but I did want to talk about that. So the show is going to go from field goals. Let's transition over to the other side of the ball, and that is the defense. Now, there's been significant turnover among the starters on the defensive side of the ball, and there was a sense of optimism surrounding the Clemson defense going into this season because of the wealth of young talent coming into the program and the great recruiting that Wes Goodwin and the other guys have done, Nick Eason have done to bring in these guys, and Mike Reed and Mickey Kahn have done to bring in these guys, and now hopefully in the future, Chris Rump. But the 2023 recruiting class has really helped out Clemson. 2024 for sure you're going to see some fresh faces as well. I think it's worth noting to take a look at the roster. You know, I like my little roster management thing that I do over on Twitter, over on X. But I want to look at the roster and give you kind of my quick thoughts on some of the guys that we saw in the spring game on defense, because I have a laundry list, and I'm sure you do as well. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think and who is on your laundry list of star players from the defense from the spring game. Let's start with the defensive ends. Cade Denoff, Zaire Patterson, Jaheim Lawson, TJ Parker, AJ Hoffler. Now, Clemson right now has two redshirt juniors in Cade Denoff and Zaire Patterson. And those two guys, Cade Denoff, you know, you kind of saw him much more. He seems like kind of a blitzing outside, one of those guys. It's a little bit of an outside linebacker, a little bit of a defensive end. He's a good mix. He could bring some speed to you. And he's one of those guys that we have seen has confidence to go out into the boundary, go out into the flats and protect from those running back screens and those running back flats passes. So he's a very versatile rusher, also a coverage guy as well. On the flip side, I saw a little bit of Zaire Patterson out there. Some of the stuff I saw, he was involved and had himself in towards the football. I think that was very important. We've heard from the coaching staff about Zaire Patterson and how a switch needs to turn on for him. He needs to be able to take it to the next level and take this level extremely serious in order to improve and not just go through the motions. They've been challenging him in the media. They've been challenging him, I'm sure, in one-on-ones behind closed doors. Zaire Patterson is now, along with Denoff, one of the older guys. Those guys need to show up and be leaders for this defensive line for sure. Maybe they're not the star players on the defensive line, but I think those two guys did very well in the spring game. Also going into the redshirt sophomore, Jaheim Lawson. He's another guy where a lot of people thought, one, D.W. Daniel. Okay. D.W. Daniel guy, a lot of those guys get beat up in the message boards about where they came from. But it's a pipeline, whether you want to believe it or not. Not only is it a pipeline, it's a pipeline of legacy players that have fathers, brothers, and cousins who have played for Clemson, and some, as in Lawson's case, have gone on to the NFL. So there is proof of pedigree there. And you can't ignore that. Just because it's the local school, I think it gets beat up on for sure. And just because, there's walk-ons that come from there, I get it. But it's really been pretty good to Clemson if you really go back and look. As much as you want to knock it, D.W. Daniel high school players have been pretty good for Clemson. So Jaheim Lawson is one of those guys I actually put down as a star for me for the spring game because of, one, he went out into the flats, and I'm going to say interception. I don't think he got an interception, but I think he batted down a ball defending against a running back there that could have easily been a touchdown if he wasn't there. So him being able to go out in coverage and guard a running back the same way I saw with Denoff in the past, I think is extremely helpful. And then also he is extremely fast around the outside as well. He's one of those guys that can get to the quarterback very quickly. So Clemson, from the first snap showed that they were going to get into the backfield quick and often. And it was exciting to see. I think defensive end was one of those big groups with the question mark across it. If you had your piece of paper out and you looked at the roster, you probably put a big orange and purple question mark there. And now, honestly, I don't have a question mark there at all, because I just mentioned those three guys who were valuable contributors for the spring game. But then the two guys behind them could very easily be like national level superstars for Clemson, if not on their way to doing that. AJ Hoffler, we haven't seen much of, but he is a guy that both Mickey and I agree could be that next superstar defensive end for Clemson. And he is showing glimpses that he is building towards that. The same way that we felt about and we saw TJ Parker last season. You couldn't keep that guy off the field. I mean, they tried to make him third string. They tried to force him to fight his way through, and there was just no denying him. It took what, 1 or 2 games, and then TJ Parker was basically a starter. I remember tweeting about it. I remember saying he needs to be out there every single down. And TJ Parker has earned that very quickly. So you have two guys that are true sophomores going into this season that I think are going to be on a national stage and highlighted very often, as long as they stay healthy and continue to get, continue their development the way that we think it can go. Again, that's defensive end. Let me know what you think. I probably could go another hour on defensive end. I'm already looking at the time, and we're here at 21 minutes. And I know I have my rule here. You guys got to keep me honest. I said 25 minutes. Well, my first video was 31. My second video was 30. So you got to keep me honest here. I'm going to move on to a position that I think I'm actually going to move away from defensive tackle. I could probably hit on DeMonte Capehart and Trey Williams and Caden Story and Stephylan Green. I don't think we saw Vic Burley. We didn't see, obviously, Peter Woods. But yes, DeMonte Capehart, guy, super high on, redshirt senior. Trey Williams, another guy, redshirt senior. Peyton Page, going to be in the rotation there. Stephylan Green, redshirt freshman, another one to watch out for. And then you have Peter Woods. Honestly, from the question marks that we had, I just don't see it. There is extremely way too much depth in that defensive front for you to be concerned about Clemson right now at all. I don't know if you were at all. You're probably telling me in the comments right now, Morgan, we were never concerned about Clemson. It was just you. You're the one that's always nervous about everything. We were never concerned. I get it. Maybe it was just me. But as I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking back through the spring game, I'm not concerned. Are you? I'm not concerned. All right. So let's move on to linebacker position. Barrett Carter was there, but he wasn't in pads. Wade Woodaz was kind of that leader there. He was involved in a ton of plays. Looks like he's added a lot of good muscle on as well. I'm excited to see what true junior Wade Woodaz can do and true senior Barrett Carter when he gets out there. Behind him, you had redshirt sophomore Kobe McLeod and true sophomore Jamal Anderson. And then behind him, redshirt freshman D. Creighton. I don't remember much of the other guys. Oh, by the way, I do remember true freshman Sammy Brown. Very first play for him was if it was a live ball, could have been a strip fumble, on Cade Klubnik. So Sammy Brown, obviously, jumping on the scene very early as well. And everybody expects a lot from him. Why not? He's a 5-star guy. But those other guys, Jamal Anderson is the one I think you have to circle. He had an interception. He had 2 interceptions, actually. One was taken back because of an offsides on Jaheim Lawson that honestly was just not an offsides. So really, Jamal Anderson should have had 2 interceptions in that game as well. So when you look at the concerns on defense and defensive end and linebacker, we know linebacker is younger this year. We know defensive end is younger this year. But are you as concerned anymore? Now, I'm talking about the front 7, and I might make a video about this tomorrow on Thursday. But as I'm talking through in my head the front 7, I'm starting to think, whoa, Morgan, whoa, with your praise, because what about the offensive line? Maybe these guys were awesome because the offensive line is not so awesome. I think we could go down that path, and I don't want to go there yet. Let me finish out the defense and just keep praising them for now. And we'll go through the offensive line and some thoughts on the offensive side of the ball, minus eliminating the quarterback, because I basically spent 2 days on the quarterback already. Let's talk about cornerback now, not quarterback, but cornerback. Jaden Lucas had a good game. Avion Terrell. Well, actually, I don't think Jaden Lucas wasn't out there. Avion Terrell is who I'm thinking. Sheldon Lewis was out there. Brandon Strozier, I saw him a ton. Tavoy Fagan was the guy, I believe, had the pick six. Or no, he had close to a pick six, very close, got pushed out at the 15-yard line, something like that. So Tavoy Fagan is one of those guys, true freshman coming on the scene, that Clemson is going to rely on as well. You're looking at Lucas, Terrell, Lewis, Strozier, and Fagan. Those guys could really come on and have an opportunity to play often and rotate there at the cornerback position. So whether you're concerned about it because of the losses at cornerback, I can understand that. It makes sense that you would be concerned because of the losses at cornerback. You no longer have Nate Wiggins, who's a guy who is basically earned his way into being a first-round draft pick. And then you have Sheridan Jones, who was a guy who was constantly a dependable veteran for sure, a leader in the locker room. Now you've got a bunch of young guys in there that are ready for their time. But isn't that what you love about college football, is these guys get their time to shine? And they basically did, in my opinion. I mean, I think I love what I saw from Terrell. He's got the pedigree there. I like what the glimpses I saw of Lewis and Strozier. And again, how could you not like what you saw from Tavoy Fagan? One of the leaders for the recruiting class for him as well, in the true freshman, the 2024 recruiting class. He was the first guy signed for the class. So it's great to see those guys who were your Clemson guys, who were like, I'm going to be a Tiger, like from the start, right? Number one guy. And I'm going to start it off. And he stuck with Dabo through everything. So I love that. Love to see what he can do. Want to see more of that. Let me know as we go into the safeties here. I want to know, tell me about what you think, your list. Maybe give me one for defensive end, defensive tackle, linebacker, cornerback, safety. I'd love to see what you guys have, because compare notes here as we go on in the season. And as I get back into the rhythm of doing my show here. So finally, with the safety position, man, it was great to see Tyler Venables back in, red shirt. Really, I don't even know if you would call that. He originally was red shirted, but he's now like a graduate plus. So he's there. RJ Mickens is there. Sherrod Koval, he wasn't on the field, but he's getting, I think he's getting recovered there from his injuries. And then you have Khalil Barnes. I think, he did get a penalty there, here and there. He was kind of grabby a little bit in the spring game. He's probably going to want a couple of those plays back. He seemed to let some of the guys get behind him and started to, get called for some things. So I think Khalil Barnes will want some of those plays back. But it's weird too, because Khalil Barnes is now number 7. So it's kind of weird to see him. And then you have Rob Billings. I know he got out there. Noah Dixon, true freshman, got out there as well. So those are some names that kind of stick out to me as I think back through the spring game. So that is my thoughts on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think I'm looking at my notes here. I don't think I have a ton more. I know that I was reading an article recently from ESPN that was ranking Clemson's future defense as number 4 in the nation coming up. And I think that, Clemson definitely shows, man, they have a wealth of talent there on the defensive side of the ball. So in good hands. I think if you're Wes Goodwin, man, what an easier job. Wouldn't you want? And there is he has a lot of clay to mold out there, and good clay, that's for sure. Let me know what you think in the comments about the defense. Here we go. As we're going into the final minutes, let me check my time here. I'm at 29 minutes. Go figure. I can't just stop at 25. But looking at PJ Hall, the standout center, first team all ACC player. I want to give some love to the basketball side of things. He's been in some discussions about what his future is going to be. He does have another year of eligibility. And I've heard he's been contemplating, NBA or maybe even coming back. He loves Brad Brownell. Obviously, I think as a Clemson fan, you would be extremely excited to have him come back, averaging 18.3 points per game, 6.4 rebounds per game. He's getting attention from NBA and some of the mock drafts that are out there. According to some of the experts, they have him going pick number 41, Boston Celtics. Yahoo Sports has him pick number 56 at the Memphis Grizzlies. Sporting News has him at pick number 30 for the Boston Celtics. And Bleacher Report, I think, has him at pick number 47 for the Sacramento Kings. I think that PJ Hall, obviously his biggest annoyance in the college game is just getting all those unnecessary fouls, and you having to sit him on the bench for 5, 6, 7 minutes because he gets into early foul trouble. That's always been my biggest gripe from him. I love his game. I think he is, talented from the 3-point arc. I think he's talented down low. Can it transition into the NBA game? I'm not a big NBA fan, so I really don't know what does transition into the NBA. For me, being a Clemson fan, I'm going to say, come back, PJ, come back, and let's run it back one more time. Run it back for Clemson one more time, and let's do that. So that's where my heart lies. But I think obviously he's given blood, sweat, and tears. His family, huge supporters of the staff, and just sticking through and really going on that historic run there. First time since 1980 to the Elite Eight, and just really, man, just a few plays away, maybe a few better defensive series, maybe a few less fouls, maybe a few better free throw attempts, more successful free throw attempts. Clemson was one game away, just one game away from being in the Final Four and getting that national treatment like those other teams did. Man, it was amazing to see the pageantry that they had there, I believe, in Arizona. But Clemson got close. Hopefully they can get back to it as well. If PJ Hall goes on and moves on, and some of the other guys do move on, we already know Jack Clark is in the transfer portal. It is what it is there with that. I think that Clemson's, what I have anticipated for Clemson's basketball is that it's going to be a lot of Brad Brownell going into the transfer portal and having to reload and build around Ian Shefflin and RJ Godfrey, and perhaps maybe also Chase Hunter coming back. PJ Hall, maybe. I would say I'm leaning towards more he's going to the NBA. But that's as far as I'm going to take the basketball discussion. Let me know in the comments too. I wanted to give basketball some love after the historic run that they made this past season in the NCAA tournament, one that is much needed for Brownell and Clemson fans as a whole. And then finally, as I finish it up, softball did us good tonight. Number 17 beat up the South Carolina Gamecocks 7-0 to get back in their winning ways against the Gamecocks. They're now 6-1 overall against South Carolina. And Julian Noller, is so great to see her back. She jumped off early in the top of the second inning with a solo home run. Maddie Moore goes out there and she gets a solo home run as well. She's doing great. Reagan Spencer and Millie Thompson out there, and they actually had to move around the infield. So Maddie Moore, if you notice, wasn't at second base. She had to go to shortstop. Aaliyah Lungaleo had to go to third base, and then they actually put Alex Brown at second base. I don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing. They said they did this switching. Well, now that I say this, somebody told me they did this switching because of Valerie Cagle and her being on concussion protocol after the Syracuse series. I didn't realize she was going to be on concussion protocol. I heard about that on 105.5 The Roar. But, it seems like they've tweaked the infield there. Many years ago, a few seasons ago, it was Aaliyah Logaleo and Maddie Moore at short and third, or vice versa. So maybe, just maybe, there is an opportunity there to get a spark for that team there. Obviously, good to get back in the winning ways, continue what they're going on from the series with Syracuse, where they swept them 3 games. Now, this weekend, starting Thursday, is the big time series against Duke. If they can walk away, this is a home series. If they can walk away with 2 out of 3, that is going to be huge to let everyone know, hey, yep, they've had a couple of losses here and there. They're 28-11, more losses than you're normally used to from Clemson softball. But if the whole point was to build up towards games like this. So losses aside, mistakes aside, injuries and concussion protocol, all these things aside, if they can get right and be ready for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and take it to Duke, one of the best teams in the country in the ACC, I think that'll be huge for Clemson softball to show, hey, yep, we took some knocks on the chin early this season, but now look at us. Look at how much we've grown. Everything kind of builds up to this, the biggest series of the season for 2024. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be watching it. Hopefully you will be watching it as well. All right, everybody. Hey, that's it for me. Thank you so much for being a part of the show and watching and tuning in and leaving your comments. I love every single bit of it, man. I am so excited to be back and to be talking to you about Clemson athletics. We'll keep this thing going. Again, get in the comments. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all the videos that come out. Hit that little bell as well so you know when a new video comes out. I'm going to try to send them out every morning for you. So we can meet up every single day, Monday through Friday. I'm going to take the weekends off. But again, thank you so much. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.